From now on, nothing goes down unless I'm involved. No blackjack, no dope, no deals, no nothing. A nickel bag gets sold in the park, I want in. You guys got fat while everybody starved on the street. Now, it's my turn.
In smoky rooms where deals are made, loyalty the ace he's played. A friend of ours, he'll stand up tall. Through gunfire smoke, he'll never fall. With heart of gold and steel resolve, a mystery we'll never solve.
Brothers and sisters, welcome back. Welcome back to the Friend of Ours podcast. This is a limited edition series hosted by your main man, Duke Loves Wrestling, and of course, the Don himself, one of the greatest of all time. He is one of the kings of New York, as he just quoted there, the one, the only Big Vito LoGrasso. How you doing there, Vito?
I'm doing good. You know, Duke, we're doing this show. I got a piece of this, all right? But I haven't seen nothing yet. So, Duke, what are you doing over there?
Listen, your fruit basket is in the mail. I keep telling you this, okay? Your fruit basket is in the mail.
Listen, so is a beatdown with your name on it coming to your front door. And you know what? When we take you outside, we're going to take your wallet. You know, we're not going to rob you. We're just going to take your driver's license. You know why? Because then I have all your information. Because I got people on the inside. And I could run your stuff. I run your numbers. And then I got everywhere you're going to go. I got your tracking system. I got your credit card numbers. I got everything. I will know where you shit, where you eat, where you sleep, where even to go get a drink of water, I'm going to know about. Because I got to want a piece of everything. So, Duke, this fruit basket better show up. Because I'm getting kind of, hungry. And it better bring some anisette, some sambuca, so I could dip my melon. You understand, Duke? I'm glad we're clear on this.
Be my friend, Godfather?
I'll think about it.
Folks, I'm getting shaken down right there in front of you. I don't know what's going on here. I better watch myself. Jesus Christ. I'm telling you. Listen, we have a special treat for everybody out there. You have been going nuts because we're dipping into the pop culture. We are detailing how your favorite TV shows, your favorite movies, and how your reality TV shows and how they relate to real things happening, real history when it comes to the mob and things like that. And Vito, being a guy who, grew up around some guys and saw some things, his expert opinion and insight is incredible. And me being a fan of the history and knowing some of this stuff, it's really wonderful, and really appreciate everybody who has joined us on this journey. You keep sharing the show. Some of these big mob sites and pages and what have you, Vito, they're starting to pick up on this, especially your relation to Lucky Luciano. I'm starting to see some movement with that. So the campaign to honor Lucky as a hero of the United States of America for what he did to help keep this country safe, there's still a lot to be told as it relates to that. And I know that I don't want to give away too much because you're still working on that. And in the not too distant future, folks, we'll talk more about that thing. But just literally from the bottom of our hearts, thank you to everybody out there who has joined the movement that is the Friend of Ours podcast and keeps building this up. This is awesome. In fact, Clint Carroll, who we gave a birthday shout out to last week, he clipped that and he's putting it out all over the place. You've probably seen it, Vito. He's very happy to be acknowledged by the Don. So life is good. Life is good, my friend.
Hey, I saw it. I just retweeted it on Twitter. So, I mean, it's an exciting thing. When people like myself, and I'm not, boasting or anything, but when people like myself take the time to talk to people who give their time and their effort to listen and watch my career. The littlest thing like saying happy birthday, a shout out, good luck, means the world to them because a lot of people in my position do not do this and they don't interact with their fans. But you know what? I'm for the people and I'm a people's person. And I know what it's like to start at the bottom, come to the top, but you never forget where you come from. And that's Vito LoGrasso.
Indeed. Indeed. Never forget where you come from for sure. And being a man of the people is how you keep yourself out of trouble. At least in my opinion, that's what my history has taught me. So, we'll stick to that. So listen, the movie Casino.
Yeah.
Brothers and sisters, we are going to dig a little into that. A lot of people don't realize that that story is actually based on the lives of real people and real things that happened as Las Vegas went from being a very slow and quiet desert town to legitimately being one of the biggest entertainment capitals of the world. So there are a lot of figures who are responsible for that, and they were portrayed in Casino loosely. But there's a story to be told there. So we're going to dig into that. First and foremost, Vito, when I say Casino and I'm talking about the movie there, what comes to mind first for you?
Joe Pesci.
Yeah. Yeah.
Joe Pesci, without a shadow of doubt, he's the man. He's Vito going in there. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't even be here right now. And then you're on TV and you're shooting your mouth off. And all the people know you're bringing the heat down on me. I can't take this no more. And you want to know something else? You took my money. Now I'm over here. If you don't give me my money, I'm stupid. I'm going to crack your fucking head open. Right? And then once I get out of jail, I'm going to come back and I'm going to go to your office and then I'm going to crack your head open again because I'm stupid like that. Duke, have you ever heard a thing like that in your life?
I've been smart enough to keep myself out of trouble so I don't have to ever hear a thing like that in my life. But boy, you just delivered that almost word for word. You're the new Nicky Santoro, huh? Like you're the guy, except you're a little taller than he is.
Nah, but hey, listen, you got to be somebody in this life. Even at 5'6", I'm doing good.
Unbelievable. Shout out to Joe Pesci. He did a great job in the movie Casino. He played Nicky Santoro. Let me say that right. Nicky Santoro, which here's the irony. And I don't know if you knew this beforehand, Vito. So jump in as I go along here. But Nicky Santoro was based off of a guy by the name of Anthony the Ant Spilotro. So this was a Chicago guy. So he was part of the Chicago mob. And he was a little guy. He almost looked exactly like how Joe Pesci looked in the movie, by the way. But a lot of that stuff, it was all based on Anthony the Ant Spilotro. So did you know that?
Yes, I did. He is one of the most violent mobsters ever. And you know what? It reminds me of somebody who I definitely was affiliated with. And I know I've mentioned it on a few times in different podcasts, but like I told everybody, I was friends with the Bellotti family, and everybody knows Tommy Bellotti, who was the driver for Paul Castellano when he was assassinated with. I was friends with the nephews, Jimmy, and all the brothers and sisters. And who was his brother? But Joe Bellotti, same concept, same makeup. And let me tell you, Joe Bellotti, he might have been a small guy, but he was a deadly son of a bitch, whether he was in the joint, outside on the street, in a nightclub. And believe me, when he spoke, you listened. If he raised his hand, you had a duck. If he cracked you one, you knew you were in trouble. And that's how it goes.
Indeed. Indeed. Let me back up for a second here. So, folks, the movie Casino, it's almost 3 hours long, first of all, which is highly unusual. But that just lets you know it was awesome. It won Golden Globes in the whole nine yards there. Beloved movie. This is a movie that came out in 1995, and I'll give you the synopsis here. In the early 1970s, Las Vegas low-level mobster Sam Ace Rothstein, played by Robert De Niro, gets tapped by his bosses to head the Tangiers Casino. At first, he's a great success in the job, but over the years, problems with his loose cannon enforcer, Nicky Santoro, played by Joe Pesci, and his ex-hustler wife, Ginger, played by Sharon Stone, and a handful of corrupt politicians put Sam in ever-increasing danger. Now, this movie was directed by the great Martin Scorsese. It was based on a book by Nick Pileggi. And, it is something else, folks. It is an amazing story of how Las Vegas was built by the mob. So, again, when we talk about the main characters, first and foremost, Robert De Niro plays Ace Rothstein. That's the character in the movie Casino. Now, that character is based off a guy by the name of Frank Lefty Rosenthal. And again, this is a Chicago mob guy, not a New York guy, but a Chicago mob guy. Now, Lefty Rosenthal was a Jewish guy. He understood gambling. He understood how to make money for the mafia bosses. And as a result of that, they trusted him and they protected him. So when they reached out in the movie to Joe Pesci's character, Nicky Santoro, but in real life, Anthony the Ant, when they reached out to the Ant, they said, listen, this guy's making us a lot of money. We need you to go to Las Vegas and be his muscle. Anybody messes with him, anybody upsets him in any way, you deal with them. So this guy can continue making the money for us, building the casinos, doing the work that we need done so we can be all right. And that's exactly what happened. Now, Vito, the Tangiers was a fictitious casino in the movie, but in real life, the guy who is based off of the Ace Rothstein character, Mr. Lefty Rosenthal, in real life, he actually built 4 casinos at the same time: the Stardust,
Right.
Hacienda, Fremont, and the Marina. So I'm going to stop right there because I want to get your take on that. You send a guy who's not Italian, by the way. This is a Jewish guy. You send him out to a new territory, just like how we talked about last week in Tulsa King, and he needs to develop some new business for the family, so to speak. And you send an enforcer out there to protect him. What are your thoughts on that whole concept?
Well, you always send somebody who has the brains, who has the personality, the business ethnic to do these things. Now, what De Niro did in the beginning is he used to run numbers and he used to make money for the mob, doing numbers, doing betting. So when they had the idea to send him to Las Vegas and to open up these casinos, you just don't go out there, like you said, a Jewish guy with no backbone, and nobody to protect you. That's where Pesci came in and was the muscle. Now, when Pesci got out there, and as the casinos were being built, Pesci had a hand in one of the casinos, and then he had a hand in all the casinos, but one was his. It was his place. And being typical Joe Pesci movie type gangster, which we all seen, he goes out there, he establishes himself, and then he gets lost in his own karma. He gets lost in his own juice. He didn't know how to fly straight, fly low. He was, I'm going to kick all your fucking asses, and everybody's going to do what the fuck I want to do, and that's the way it's going to fucking be, a la Al Capone and some other mobsters who had some great entrepreneur business adventures, but was a loose cannon in real life. And those two things don't mix. If you're going to be a boss, you have muscle. If you're going to be muscle, you can't be a boss because it goes to your head. As you can see in mob history, this is like, um, I'll give an old saying, from wrestling. If you're the booker, you can't be talent. If you're the talent, you can't be the booker. You got to be one or the other. Duke, take it away.
I agree. I agree, and it's so interesting just hearing you describe that because it really does translate into business from a general standpoint. If you're the manager of something, if you're in charge of something, you may know or have an understanding of how to do all the different jobs, but you're not there to personally do all the different jobs. You need to build a team around you who can support you properly so you can focus on the bigger picture. So if you manage a business, you can't be the top sales guy. You got to go out there and find and develop the top sales guy. If you manage the business, you can't necessarily be the accountant. You need to go get an accountant. You got to understand how to do all of it, but you need to build a team who can do those things. And so now when we take that same concept and we apply it to, being in the life, and especially as it was portrayed in Casino, which again, folks, loosely based on real life, the boss can't be the muscle. The boss can't be going around slapping everybody around and stuff like that. You got to get a guy. One of the best quotes from Casino is, who's going to muscle Nicky? Nicky is the muscle. It's Joe Pesci's character, who is really based on a real guy, the Ant. He was literally going up, smacking people up, beating the hell out of them. And he and his brothers, if they had to, they dig a hole in the sand and put you in it because that's just the way it was. So really interesting when you consider how all of these things can translate into different aspects of life. But a guy like the Robert De Niro character, right? Sam Ace Rothstein, based on the guy by the name of Lefty Rosenthal, I should say. This notion that you got to earn her, and you don't want him focusing on being a tough guy, on being a badass, on being a gangster per se. You want him focused on the money. Do the job that I'm paying you to do. Just keep earning for us, buddy. We'll get somebody else to take care of that other thing. It works. It makes sense. You can't do both. So, in the beginning, it was a match made in heaven. But ultimately, what always happens, the hothead starts getting upset. They start feeling like they're not appreciated enough, especially when the darling of everybody is the guy who's bringing in the money. And as a result, there's a little jealousy there, and that can turn into some violence and infighting within the family. So let me ask you this on the side here, Vito. Right. Can you ever think of a time that you've either heard or even seen a situation similar to that situation between Nicky and Ace, where the guy who's not getting his hands dirty keeps getting the pat on the back and everybody loves him and he gets praised. Meanwhile, the guy keeps getting his hands dirty. No matter what he does, he's being spoken to a different way. Hey, did you do this? Why aren't you doing that? But like he can never do enough, basically. Have you ever seen anything like that?
In all my years while I was in Staten Island, in all the businesses that I was associated with, as far as the club scene, bar restaurants, and other ventures, that's usually the code of business. I mean, usually when you're the boss, you make everything okay. Everybody's welcome. If there's anything I could do for you, you have muscle goes out. Hey, this guy fucked up. I need you to go take care of this. But then as a boss, sometimes you got to go out there and you could be nice and cordial, but then you got to slap somebody up just to let people know you're still in the game. You don't fuck with me. Don't shit where I eat. And you're going to do as I say anyway. I might be a nice guy, but you don't be a nice guy being in a position that I'm in. And that's the way it goes. That's the way it's handled. Because on the way up, you do everything you can to make sure your business is good. And then once you get to the top, you watch everybody do what you did. But if they fuck up the plan or the regime or what you created, you're going to step in and you're going to crack somebody in the fucking head because that's the way it is. And there's nothing that anybody could do about it, you know? And being that you're in the structure of your four walls, like I always said, guys who think they're big time, right? And they're tough guys inside a protected environment. Once they step outside that protected environment, go ahead and fucking talk to me like that because I will crack your fucking head open. I don't give a shit who you're fucking related to, who your father is. I don't give a shit who you are. You don't fucking shit where I eat. And that's the way you make your name. Some guys get carried away. Some guys can handle it. Some guys um, have a soft approach, and some guys, rough ride with a tough handle. But that's just the nature of the beast. When you see Empire, Boardwalk Empire, you see Al Capone, and he is out of control. I mean, he's a joker. He's laughing. He's a boss. He'll shoot you in the head. You mess up, he will take care of it. He don't need 50 guys to do his fighting. He'll do it himself. And when it goes to be a smackdown, he's the one who's going to throw the first slap because that's the way he is. You're gangster. And things might not be that way, that open these days, but that's the way it was back in the day and the day before my day, or even worse.
Well said. Well said. And again, great insight on this stuff. It makes sense. You said something earlier. You pointed out that the Ace Rothstein character originally started off as a guy who was running numbers. We hear this term often, and especially in the movies and stuff like that. But most people don't really understand what it means to run numbers, Vito. My understanding is that it has something to do with the lottery, or it could. I think there's different ways to run numbers, but it's like a lottery that isn't part of the regular state lottery. It's its own separate thing. From your understanding, how would you explain to somebody who has no clue at all, what does it mean to run numbers?
When you run numbers, you got a handle on bets. You got a handle on um, poker games. You got a handle on sporting events. You got a handle on card games. You got a hand in everything that makes money. When you run the numbers, you manipulate the system. Remember what I said, people. Manipulate the system to where it benefits you. And on the inside of the track, you're changing the odds as it goes to your advantage. It's a lot more detailed than what you say, and I don't think anybody would really get the gist of it, but manipulating the system, I think, is the best way to describe it.
Well said. Well said. That makes a lot of sense there. Is there a place today for running numbers, or is that more like a thing in the past?
No, it's still happening. But don't you see the betting events? And there are some pro players, basketball players, I believe, and football players who are being under investigation for getting hurt. Um, not participating in the game because their value is too great, and as soon as you get hurt, that's when the numbers change on the game, and that's how everybody makes their money. So not only is the player involved, the team might not be involved, the player is involved, the guy who's doing the booking is involved, and the guys who's doing all the people to bet are involved, because the more money you get for them to bet, they're going to say, oh, you're full of shit. And they're going to bet against what you're suggesting so they think they could beat you. And that's how you're making the money.
Wow. Okay, we are getting an education today, folks, on this stuff. This is the real stuff right here. Okay, this is the real stuff. When it comes to casinos, because yeah, you may not necessarily be a quote unquote Vegas guy, but I know around the New York and New Jersey area. I know that you're familiar with some casinos and that life and what have you. How do you make money off a casino? Like if you, based on your experience, based on what you know, how would somebody in the life be able to take that business and make a couple extra bucks off of it?
Uh, you get some professional card players who can count cards. You get some people who know how to um, sit there when the dice are being rolled. You sit in a machine and you calculate what's going on and you read the machine. I mean, it's a very detailed thing, but it's something that it's calculated. And you have to have patience. You have to put the time in, and you got to be a student of the game that you're trying to manipulate. You can't just say, I'm going to blackjack, I'm going to take 20,000, I'm going to let it roll. It's looking at the cards, looking at the numbers, knowing how the sequence comes out. That's how you beat the system. You know, if you're playing Texas Hangman, it's knowing the cards, seeing what people are betting, seeing the facial expressions, looking at people's actions, little things that can throw you off to say he's bluffing, he's got something, or he don't know what the fuck he's doing.
Not to mention that casinos, for the most part, I mean it's still to this day mostly cash business, right?
It's all cash business. I mean, and when you cash out, how do you want your money? In cash.
So we know, and we saw it again in the movie Casino. A lot of people cleaning their money. So, however they earn their money initially, take it to a casino and you put it in, you cash it in for chips. You play a couple of hands and what have you, whatever. Maybe you lose a couple bucks. Let's say if you give them $1,000 and you lost $300, and then you cash out the rest. They're giving you clean money in return, folks. You can account for that money that you got at the casino. That's all clean there. So that's why it was such a lucrative endeavor, and especially to set up casinos in areas where they did not exist before. It just made sense. So when we look at modern days, the reason why you have so many different agencies and regulators and what have you who focus on the casinos, it's because it's so easy for corruption to be involved. It's so easy for people to make extra money off of it and manipulate things and what have you. So that's why it's regulated so heavily. And even though it's regulated, it doesn't mean that those regulations necessarily work. That's a whole other story there. One of the biggest characters in the movie Casino is Ginger, played by Sharon Stone. She actually won a Golden Globe for Best Actress for her portrayal as Ginger in that movie. This lady was a hustler. She knew how to, shake down high rollers and be their girlfriend for while they were in town and stuff like that. And she would also steal from them when they weren't paying attention and all that good stuff there. She was a working girl, no two ways about it. That was based on a real person, a lady by the name of Geraldine McKee. That was her maiden name, and then she married the Rosenthal guy. But this was a real person. This was a girl who was a hustler, who knew how to play the game and all that other good stuff. When you think back, Vito, first of all, the portrayal of that character, how authentic was that character to people who you've seen in real life?
I would say it was about 80 to 90% true because they didn't need a man to make their way. They always made money, but their goal was to always be taken care of and live that lap of luxury, using their assets as the golden nugget to attain the male figure to take care of them, but always being around the game to make a side hustle and make money for themselves. Once you're a hustler, you're always a hustler. Once you know how to make money, you always make money. Just because you're occupied with somebody doesn't take you out of the game. You're going to stay home and bake cookies. You're still going to be around. You're still in the game, and this, deciding how your life is going. You know, there could be something that you could be making a side hustle on, but that's something that is a lifestyle. It's not something you just jump into. It doesn't mean that you sleep with every Tom, Dick, and Harry. It's a selective club of people, and it's like you're a woman's mafia where she's using her um, female persuasive ways to get what she wants. I guess the best way to put it politely for all our listeners out there.
In your lifetime, and listen, we're not asking for names, but in your lifetime, who was the biggest female hustler in that regard, who was around the wise guys, who understood how to play the game? She was always, dressed to the nines, dolled up, always had the most expensive everything. But, you knew that she was also robbing some of these guys blind, and they were too enthralled by her assets to even realize it at times. Like a Marilyn Monroe or the Ginger character, what have you. Can you think of somebody who you came across in life who was like that? And if so, tell us about her. Without saying names, tell us about her. What kind of person was she?
Uh, I'm going to use mob wives. Now, we spoke highly of somebody in Mob Wives on a few episodes ago. And when it comes to um, somebody belonging, somebody knowing how to be a businesswoman, an entrepreneur, somebody who could be friendly, sweet, kind, but knew how to do their hustle. Like we said, we're not going to mention names, but that person, always did some wonderful things, was a wonderful human being, but she had a business sense to always make sure she was taken care of. There are a lot of ladies who I have been associated with who have been um, daughters of wise guys who became business people, but also used it to their advantage to make money and get their way and manipulate men into doing what they want because they thought they were going to be on the in or get the golden nugget or get the prize. It's definitely, like I said, it's a lifestyle, folks. It's not something that you just wake up and say, I'm going to do. You got to have a know how. You got to know how to do business without giving away the farm. It's not a sexual thing as per se, but the allure of a possibility of sex always helps facilitate the deal. I hope everybody can follow that politely and respectfully. This way, there's nothing um, derogatory about it. And this is an educated explanation, the best that I know how to give.
Well said. Well said. I mean, look, we all know this, folks. People like that exist in life. It's all part of it, especially when you are dealing with organized crime. Everybody's a hustler. Everybody has an angle. Everybody's involved in something. Not just the bosses, the underbosses, the guys who are the runners, not just the women that they choose to be around with, not just the cops, the politicians, the lawyers, the business owners. You think when you go to a restaurant, the guy at the restaurant isn't part of the deal there. You know what I mean? If I be nice to these mob guys and what have you, then they'll give me protection, so nobody else is going to bother me. It's all part of it. It's all a racket. It's all a racket, and each part of the racket complements the other, which makes it all continue to exist. That's just the reality of life. There, one of the biggest parts of Casino, it starts and it ends this way, is the car bombing scene where Ace Rothstein, he gets in his car and he starts it and it blows up. And that's how the movie started. Now, in the end, they show it again, but he had a metal plate in that vehicle. It was just part of the makeup of the car, which saved his life. He survived the car bombing. That really happened to the real guy, Rosenthal. So this is a crazy question I'm going to ask, and I guess I'm going to do it in a different way. When it comes to a guy surviving a hit, what's the craziest story that you've ever heard of, Vito, of a guy surviving a hit? Any kind of hit, not just a bombing, but a shooting, a stabbing, whatever. What's the craziest story you ever heard of a guy surviving a hit?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you guys, I mean, and this is like true life experience. I've been around guys who've been shot at, and I even had a duck. I know they weren't coming for me, but I had a duck. And when you survive something like that, your radar is up. You find out who you had a beef with, why this happened, and there's always a sit down to be had, or there's always a receipt to be given for somebody trying to take you out. But you can't do it right away because they're going to know it's you. You got to wait your time. You got to be on the low key. You got to be on the down low and strike when nobody expects it. I made a comment about, hey, I'm going to rob you. I'm not taking your money. I'm not taking your watches. I'm not taking nothing. I'm going to take your driver's license because I got all the information I need. I'm going to know where your wife sleeps. I'm going to know where your kids sleep. I'm going to know where you go to work. Your wife works. Your kids go to school. I'm going to know everything about you. I'm going to send you a message. A message you might not like, but it's a message. It's coming. And you stay silent. That guy's got to be on his toes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. His family has to be on alert. And for the first 6 months to a year, that guy's going to shit a brick because he doesn't know when it's going to come. Might not come tomorrow. It might not come from a year from now, but you're going to get it. And your receipt's going to come big when you least expect it.
Damn. Wow. What do you do with that? Jeez. That's scary, man. That's scary to hear bullets whizzing by, even though they're not necessarily for you. Bullets have no names on them. Anybody can get hit. Jeez.
Duke, when you're on the street and this happens, I was in a club one night. I was with my friend, a guy named John, and he did something on the street, and some guys didn't like what he did, and we were in the club, and all of a sudden, he walked away from me, and he was going to the bar to get a drink, and all of a sudden, shots opened up, and he's diving out the back door exit, and I'm putting my head down, just hoping to not get hit, let alone that he was my friend, and let alone that they wouldn't come after me, but watching this happen, or somebody on the street where somebody comes with a gun, they actually, pop a few caps off and they're taking a shot at you, or somebody outside a nightclub with a giant knife with 9 guys standing in front of you and say, hey, what are you going to fucking do about it? Or somebody, pulling a gun to your head and say, hey, what are you going to do about this? You know what I mean? It's either you're going to take a stand and make a bones about it, you know, how about beating up a made guy and then having to sit down because they want to fucking kill you. You know what I mean? And if it's not for, a friend of ours or some other people who are influential, I might not be sitting here. You know what I mean? On a couple of occasions. Because I was a freaking crazy son of a bitch. And, I didn't let nobody get the best of me, and I didn't give a shit who the fuck you were with. If I was going to get you, I was going to get you. And, a couple instances, I went and I got my revenge, and I got some people, whether it was choking the shit out of you, throwing you outside a fucking window, or fucking finding you out on the street and beating the shit out of you. You know what I mean? Or worse. So I mean, there are things that you do and there's things that you say, but when it comes time to handling your business, when somebody takes a poke at you, you got to answer, but you can't answer right away. You got to be calculated.
When you think about the movie Casino and all the things that happened, knowing after the fact that, yeah, this was all based on real characters and real things that happened, um, how do you rank that movie? How do you rank it in the discussion of all time great mob movies?
I would say it's up there. I mean, it's up there in the top 10 for sure. And I say top 10, guys, because there's a wide variety of mob movies that you like. Can you say, hey, this one's number one, this one's number two? I can't really say that, but if I put them all in a category of top 10, not giving anybody any favoritism, because I'm a mob historian, I'm related to the mob. I, had associations. So, guys, I mean, it's there for the taking. And you really can't say, hey, this was number one, this was number two, but you look at it with realism of how things are done in the real world.
I forgot to mention this one, and I have to do it. The pen scene, one of the craziest scenes in the history of cinema, where Ace Rothstein, played by Robert De Niro, he's at a bar, or at his own bar, and he sees a pen on the bar, and he was like, hey, to some guy, hey, is this your pen? He was like, well, what does it matter to you? He said, well, it's a nice pen. I don't know. I just didn't want you to lose it. So I'm asking you if it's your pen. And the guy says, why don't you take that pen and stick it up your you-know-what, jag off? And again, Ace Rothstein is not the muscle. He's not a tough guy per se. He's an earner. So the guy talks to him this way, and he's like trying to process, like, whoa, what is this guy's problem? And before he could even blink, here comes the Joe Pesci character, Nicky. He walks over, grabs the pen, turns the guy around, and proceeds to stab the guy over and over again in the neck with the pen. And then beats the hell out of the guy, kicks him, and the guy is screaming and he's crying. And then Pesci says, you hear that, Ace? Huh? You hear little girl? What happened to the tough guy who told my friend to shove it up his, you know what? And he's just beating the hell out of the guy. And then, the Pesci character's standing there, blood all over his hand, this pen in his hand, all bloody. And, Ace Rothstein just looking at him like, Jesus Christ, what's the matter with you? Like, the guy mouthed off, okay, but you damn near killed the guy over it. What are your thoughts on that, Vito? As somebody yourself who has had to straighten people out when they cross the line or what have you, that scene, how real is that scene?
You mean, have I lived that scene? Yeah.
I'm not asking you if you live that scene. I want to be very careful with that. I'm just asking you, generally speaking, how real is that scene? Wait, listen. We know the feds are taking pictures here. We don't want any problems here, pal. Right?
You're hanging out in the bar, and you're with your guy, and you're just sitting there, and you're minding your own business, and somebody acts like a fucking jerk off in a club. And somebody gets disrespectful. Did it go down where the guy was a jerk off to you and he said some shit to you? Absolutely. The stabbing thing is things happen like that, but I mean, usually it's a 1-2 combination to the jaw, crack your head against the bar and throw you the fuck out. That shit happens more times than others. And then you have to find out if you hit somebody who was a wise guy, a friend of a wise guy, or somebody who's just in there being a jerk off and trying to be a tough guy. That's when you got a problem. You know what I mean? So that's when you get figured out of what's going on. It's just like in the movie Gotti, right? And when the boss sent him to do a piece of work and he said, I want you to take care of this guy. And he goes with his right hand, but they give him some whack job who's supposed to do the job and just stand there while John Gotti took care of it. And instead of giving him Sammy the Bull, they gave him this crackhead guy. And the guy wound up, doing the guy because he was all zooted out. And then Gotti got mad and he wound up whacking this guy. That real life shit happens, folks. You know what I mean? And this it's not for play. And everybody thinks they're a mobster or a wise guy. You're really not. And, when you do shit like this, there are consequences because 9 times out of 10, you don't walk out of there scot-free. And if you do it to somebody who is a made guy or do it to somebody who's related to somebody or, something, there's going to come something down the pike that you're going to have to deal with. You know what I mean? And today is way different than back in the day because once you were throwing hands back then, you took care of your business and that was it. Today is way different, and than back 20 years ago, or 30 or 40 or 50 years ago.
I'll tell you right now, it's one of my favorite movies, Casino. That scene is crazy. That's a crazy scene with the pen, but things happen. Listen, I've seen things happen similar in the sense of somebody stepped on somebody's shoe, somebody's mouthing off, somebody was trying to talk to somebody's girlfriend, and next thing you know, that person is in a lot of pain. And that's just real life. It is what it is. But highly recommended, folks. Casino. Definitely watch that movie when you have time. It's 3 hours long. It's 2 hours and 58 minutes, I believe, is the exact runtime for it. But I'm telling you right now, it's worth it. The music in that movie is worth it. It's just incredible. It's an incredible piece of cinema that you will enjoy. And it's a little bit, even though it's telling an old tale, it's still a little modernized compared to, like, say, The Godfather and things like that. So that's another interesting aspect of it there, for sure. So let's move on here, Vito. I love food. You love food, so we got to talk about food. But I have a very interesting question for you because we have some friends who actually they specialize in making the big legs of prosciutto, right, and things like that. And, these are longtime Duke Loves Wrestling friends who listen to the content, and I've noticed that they've been checking out this show. So who knows? There might be some business in the not too distant future there. But from a general standpoint, talk to me about my favorite Italian meat, prosciutto. What is the deal with prosciutto? Why does it taste so great? And in your opinion, what's the best way to serve and enjoy prosciutto?
Well, I got to tell you, prosciutto. When you look at prosciutto, right, it comes from a leg of pig. All right, it's cleaned, it's salted, it's just a different taste of meat. Okay, and then when you hang it in a room, you're supposed to hang it from anywhere from 60 to 90 days, so it cures. And when it cures, you wash it, and then it has a unique taste to it. And then when it dries out, and then you cut it, it's something that's like a delicacy. It does get a reddish pink. It has a sweet flavor. And it's not always cooked. One way. There are different ways to cook it. You can cook it with Parmesan cheese. You cook it with ricotta. You can cook it over a pizza. You can cook it with in different kinds of. You can even cook it in risotto, which I just learned. So people who are risotto people, that's even better. But I mean, guys, it's definitely a different when you mix it with, provolone, and if you mix it with some Italian bread, or how I like it is with breadsticks, wrapped up with the prosciutto and the provolone. There's nothing better than that. I definitely am a fan of it. I've liked it. I mean, and when you see it hanging in somebody's basement, where's the knife? I need a piece. Vito, you like this stuff? Absolutely. Absolutely. This is like, it's just like anything else, especially when you make a plate of it and you have some melon, some toasted bread, you have your cheeses, you have like you make it with an antipasto. You know what I'm saying? So prosciutto is definitely something that, you cure, but when you have it, it's something like a Christmas, an Easter. It's something of a special occasion. For us Italians, it could be every Sunday, but at $13 a pound, it gets kind of expensive.
It's kind of expensive. You could say that again. A lot more than kind of. I have a little trick that I stumbled across. Um, if you have a restaurant supply store that's near you,
Right.
even if you don't own a restaurant, I don't own a restaurant, I don't work in a restaurant, anything like that. And those places are really for people who are in that business. But I'm gonna give up my biggest secret here on how to get yourself some prosciutto at a reasonable price. If you can talk to the people who run the restaurant supply store and let them know, hey, I'm a real customer. I'll spend money. I'm not gonna, you know what I mean, necessarily ruin this and take advantage or anything like that. I just want to be able to buy in bulk certain things that I like, etc. If you can find a way to get in, then you can buy your favorite meats and cheeses and things like that. Now you're gonna get it in bulk, but if I want to get an 8 ounce pack of prosciutto at my local market, it's going to cost me anywhere between 7 to say $12. Well, I
Right.
can go to the restaurant supply store and I can get 3 or 4 pounds of the same stuff, and it's going to cost me $15 tops. Big difference. Now, that's 3 or 4 pounds of prosciutto. That's a lot.
Right.
So you got to be able to properly store it so it doesn't dry out in the refrigerator and things like that. But if you can figure out how to properly store it, I'm telling you, folks, go to the restaurant supply store near you, get it in, and enjoy yourself. It is worth it. I'll tell you that right now. And for all of you meat companies and you sandwich shops and things like that, I think it's time for you to reach out to us. Let's figure some things out because we are guys that love to eat. We are foodies who know what we're talking about. And if you have the good stuff, then hey, who knows? Maybe you can be someone that we share information about out there. Hey, you could be a friend of ours. What do you think about that, Vito?
Hey, I think it's a good thing. And when you're buying in bulk, along with the fruit baskets, send some prosciutto my way. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. This guy never stops with the fruit baskets, just so you know. He never stops with it. That's the end of that. Vito, what's the best way everyone listening can keep up with you?
All right, guys, it's time. It's that time of the show where Big Vito gives the rundown. The Godfather, Mr. Luciano, to all you new people out there. We're going to go to X. That's the Big Vito brand. Then we're going to go to YouTube at the Big Vito brand. We're going to go to Instagram at the Big Vito brand. And of course, we're going to go to Facebook at the Big Vito brand. If you're on LinkedIn, go to Vito LoGrasso. IMDb, that's it, Vito LoGrasso. And of course, my friend, Duke of Wrestling. If you got something coming our way, hit up Duke of Wrestling. We'll get together. We'll have a sit down. We'll have some prosciutto, some anisette, and then we'll call it a meeting. How about that?
How about that? Duke Loves Wrestling on Facebook, on Twitter, DukeLovesWrestling at gmail.com. As always, folks, let me know what you think. Send in your questions. If you got a mob movie, TV show, reality show, anything that you want us to review, if you want some tips on how to survive out there, hey, this is the show for you. Again, we appreciate all of the support, all of the energy behind what we got going on. There's so much more to come. We're just scratching the surface, so stay plugged in. Now, we got a couple of birthday shout outs here, Vito. So let me see if I can go through these things quick. I'll start with, I'll work my way up because there's one person in particular that you know very well. But let me start with the guy by the name of James Smith, aka Smivvy. He's a New England guy with that thick New England accent or what have you. Huge wrestling fan, nice guy, a friend of mine. So maybe he could be a friend of ours. What do you have to say to Smivvy? And that's Smivvy, Smivvy.
Smitty, I want to say welcome to the family. And most of all, happy birthday, my friend. I hope that you get everything you want, especially that you're a little hungry right now. So if any of Smitty's friends out there, buy him some prosciutto. How about some anisette, some melon to go with it? How about an antipasto? Smitty, I wish you the best. Keep watching, keep listening. You're definitely a friend of ours.
Definitely a friend of ours. Smitty, we appreciate you, brother. Hope you have a fantastic birthday there. Next up, we have a lady by the name of Beth Cooper. Now, Beth, she is a DJ and a mom, married to a professional athlete as well, a guy who's a rugby player, if I'm not mistaken. But Beth, now here's the funny part about her. Back in the heyday, when clubs were still clubs, especially around the Boston area, New England area, Beth was known as DJ Miss Thang. Thang, DJ Miss Thang. So every time I talk to her, I still call her Miss Thang, just as a paying homage to her and her hard work and appreciation there. Very nice person, though, sweet, wonderful mom, wonderful wife. What do you got to say to Beth, aka DJ Miss Thang?
Beth, I am so happy to meet you on your birthday. And we have an opening here at the club. We need a DJ, of course. So if you want to lend your services and you'd like to have a sit down, whether it's on social media or you want to send a message to Duke to give to me, or you want to go on my website and send me a personal message, I'd be more than happy to hear from you. I hope we can talk and do a meeting so we can have a sit down so you can be my personal DJ of the month.
Okay, DJ Miss Thang, she's gonna be taking over Florida and beyond now. To keep this up, Jesus, Vito knows how to make a deal. He wants to sit down. I love it. I love it. Last, but certainly not least, a guy who is truly a friend of ours. You've known him for decades. You've been up and down the road with him. Really, really a good guy, real as it gets. But definitely somebody who is always a good time to be around and what have you. We are talking about Reggie B. Fine. Just celebrated a birthday a couple days ago. What do you have to say to our brother Reggie B. Fine?
Man, this is going to be a tough one. So I'm going to do it in Reggie B. Fine fashion. So for all you people, just hang on because everybody's got a Macho Man, impersonation. Everybody's got a Hulk Hogan impersonation. But I don't know if everybody's got a Reggie B. Fine thing. So I'm going to give it to you. Reggie B. Fine, Daddy. Let me tell you something, okay? From back in the day when you used to buy your clothes and leave the tags on. And I used to ask you, yo, baby, why are you leaving the tags on? That's because I can go back the next day, return the outfit, and get me a new outfit to wear for the next day. Reggie B. Fine, psychology. He's a hustler. He's a pimp. He's a big daddy. But most of all, he's a family man who has children. He's a wonderful human being, got a good heart. Even though he was Jerry Lawler's, driver back in the day, which nobody knows about. But I figured I'd spill the beans. Anyway, Reggie B. Fine, one of my oldest friends, one guy who always keeps in touch, a real soul brother who's down to earth. Reggie, happy birthday from your friend Scully. And that goes from the street days. Scully McAttack wishing Reggie B. Fine a happy birthday.
I love it. I love it. Shout out to Reggie B. Fine. Don't worry about all them low budgets, as you call them, Reggie.
Yes.
What did you say?
The low budgets and Scully. Yeah.
Silly. Happy birthday, Reggie. All right, Vito, it's that time. It's time to wrap it up here. What do you have for our Italian word of the day? And hopefully it's not something that we can't give a definition to like you've been doing the last couple of weeks. Yeah. Don't say you through or nothing like that, all right?
We're going to end this week with one word, and the one word where we greet and leave people, a saluto.
A saluto to everyone out there. Thank you for being a friend of ours.
A